You've got the kings, you've got the lords, the ruling elites, and then there's everybody else. Now they can call them upper class, middle class, lower class, but everybody else is a serf. You're subject to their laws, you have no powers, you're subject to their borders. Good morning, good morning, good morning, Lynn. We are serfs, and I'm just wondering, pawns, why we still play the game. What's so delicious about this game that we want to keep playing it? We're about to be replaced. It's not like we have a choice to keep playing. That's what I was wondering about this morning. It seems that peeking around the news, everybody's worried about immigration. That's the topic of the world. I try to stay away from American news because I don't want to think about what they want me to think about. I don't want them controlling me. I don't think international news is much better, but at least it's not the controls that they're trying to do within my own borders, so I can see their schemes and strategies in other borders. Good morning, good morning. We got Camille and Ann and Renee, Kathy, Crystal, good morning. Surf's up. Surfs aren't up. No, Crystal, surfs are down. We are down. We are so down. We might be negative now. We might be negative now. All right, I'm almost ready. Yes, good morning, Brother Emrys. Good morning. I always appreciate your content. All right. Let me pull up some comments. So I think I want to talk about immigration today. It seems that that's the world topic, whether it's Hungary or Germany. People in Hungary can't figure out people coming over the border just because they're hungry. We are in a time when we can't seem to stop playing these border games. All right, who else we got? Let me see. I think we're ready. Yeah, we are ready. The music has stopped. So it's time to run my mouth. Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? I don't know what today is. Today's Wednesday, I think. I think it's Wednesday all day today. Good morning. It might be Tuesday. I don't know. It's Tuesday. It doesn't really matter to me. We're still on the board game. We are still on the board game. So I was kind of thinking about this because immigration is like the world's topic now. Everyone's talking about immigration. Everyone's talking about putting up walls and gates and fences. And I'm just thinking, our borders for us, our borders for the serfs, our borders for controlling the serfs, are borders for the serfs' wealth. I don't think the borders are for the serfs' wealth. And so I'm trying to figure out, why do we as serfs still believe in borders? Why do we still believe in the borders of the board game? Like the way I see it is the whole world is a billionaire's playground, right? The whole world, it used to be a millionaire's playground. Eventually it'll be a trillionaire's playground, but the whole world is a billionaire's board game. And they're playing everybody, and we keep playing. We're not the fancy, and if you want to go with chess, we're not the fancy chess pieces in the back that all got all kind of funky shapes and stuff, and we can do all kind of funky moves, and we got magical powers. We can go 2 up, 3 right. I forget the games of chess. But we're the pawns, right? There's the ruling elite, and then everybody else are the pawns, right? The ruling elite aren't subject to their laws, and then everybody else is. So it's their board game. I think chess isn't the best example, however, because in chess, the kings and the queens and the ruling elite, they play on the board game, right? They're subject to the rules. They're subject to their laws. And I don't know about your country. I can tell you my country, they're not subject to the laws. They never have been. Not that I can tell. Certainly not the upper ups, the elites within the ruling elite. Now, maybe there's some lower level ruling elite, maybe some lords and a few lords and that didn't get the message. They're not in the club, and so they have to go on the board game with us serfs and do things. But even those that are on the board game with us, they have magical powers. They can move up. They can go as many spaces as they need to. They can go left. They can cut us out. They have this thing called money. They have this thing called power. They can do things that we can't do. So it's still not even a fair game, even though they have it. Yet we still have serfs who believe in borders. And I can't figure out why. Like, I explain what's happening in my country. I mean, in terms of immigration, it's the same thing everywhere else. You know, they want to put up the big walls and the fences. And originally it was one party's idea. It said, oh, it's a Democrat idea, bad idea. And of course, the Republicans got it. It's a good idea. The other side, no, it's a bad idea. It's the same idea. It's the same idea who billionaires without borders. They're not subject to it. They can fly over the borders anytime they want. They can make deals over the borders. You know what I'm happy about right now? I'm happy about the trade deals. I'm happy that a trade war is getting going. I'm happy. What did Putin say yesterday? That he's gonna do some retaliatory trade deals where he's gonna go after some billionaires from the United States. He's gonna go after specific industries and specific products, the pharmaceuticals and agriculture. And I'm like, yes! I'm like flipping out. I'm like getting excited. Get them. Anytime the billionaires are fighting, it's a good thing. I think, you know, now behind the scenes, I think that there's still limitations to how they'll pay. They might just lose a couple billions here or there. You know, it won't bother them so much. They'll never end up in prison because they all pardon each other and they let each other out because they're all on the same team. They're not on the board game. We are on the board. And I can't figure out why we're still playing borders, right? And if you're not along the mindset of my friends and I who think about this stuff, is that migration isn't an issue. Migration has never been an issue. Since the beginning of time, human beings, when bad times came, they migrated, right? Families walked away from war zones. Families walked away from short-faced bears. Families walked away from droughts. Families, when the time came, they got the kids, they packed up the tent, the camp, the hut, whatever it is, and they walked. Migration is human as you breathing oxygen. Migration has always been here. We always migrated. Why? Because we had to. If we stayed where we were going to die, right? So migration isn't an issue. Migration is human culture. It's a human nation. Everybody's culture did it. What's new are borders. Borders never existed. This is all new. You know, the billionaires never existed. This is all new. These mega trade deals. This is all new. Massive governments with massive militaries, whether it's the massive corporations that require the governments have massive militaries to protect their assets, or the massive governments try to keep up with the massive corporations by being massive. I don't know. But it's all got to go. I know that. It's a board game, and we're on it. The shame is we don't get to stay on it, but we're fighting for the rules of their game like we get to stay. Like the robots aren't going to take over our position. Like we can beat the robot at chess. We can follow orders better. I was thinking about fear, right? Some of the thoughts I was having this morning. I was thinking about fear and looking at Europe and how the people are still willing to stand up and protest against their government. A lot of them united. I mean, where is it? Jordan? Across all religions and races and groups and politics, they're all standing up against taxes. In America, that's impossible. America's too divided and dumb to understand who their allies are. But a government that fears its people will govern. This is what I was saying. I posted a comment earlier this morning. I have to go back and look at the comments. But a government that actually fears its people will govern, right? Because the government is scared of the people and it doesn't want the people to rise up. So bare minimum, it's going to make deals with some of the people. It's going to make some people happy. It's going to do what some of the people want because it's going to be scared of the other part of the people. A good government's going to try to do what everybody wants. It's going to try to make laws and do things that are good for everybody. I'm not sure that we should have laws, but rules, guidelines, something like that. An evolving government. But let America be the example for you. Because when a government no longer fears its people, it doesn't govern anymore. It has no reason to. A government that doesn't fear its people would be stupid to govern. A government that fears its people has no reason to govern. right? Like if you think about like how we evolve, collection of resources, how nature still works, you know, the lion runs after the slowest antelope. The tiger will get the sickest, you know, calf it can find. It's all about, I want to expend as little resources as possible to get as much energy as possible. Government is within those rules as well. If government doesn't have to waste energy looking out for you, taking care of you, then government won't. It's just, I mean, it's a simple rule of math, right? It's how we evolve. And a government that doesn't fear its people, or a government that has a strategy so it can fear its people less, will do that. Not because it's evil, not because it's bad, but because it's about consumption of energy and conservation of resources. And in Europe, it would seem that the government still fear their people to a degree, and the people rise up. But in America, they don't. But I think those rules work in reverse too, right? Because we see Americans, they rise up against each other easily. Just one little news report something can happen. What did Donald Trump did something? He did something the other day. My text message started blowing up like, oh my God. And my Democrat friends, they're all flipping out. He pardoned somebody for something, whatever. Like, oh my God, he's a monster. Like, no, he's not. Clinton did the same damn thing. They all do it. Like, they're the ruling elite. They're not on the board game. They're not subject to your logic or your rules or your strategy. But Americans are quick to fight each other because it's easier. Conservation of resources. They will sooner go after their neighbor than change their government. And then I think about government is like an operating system, right? After a while, it's required to become corrupt. That's just what systems do. You know, man-made systems are all inherently flawed. They're all going to eventually have some corruption. A few bits of get flipped this way, that way, the other way, corruption slips in, and you got to do the Microsoft solution and you got to reboot. But we're even scared to reboot. We're even scared to ask for a reboot. Some governments are so bad, you don't need a reboot. You need a whole new operating system. You need a whole new government, perhaps. Some users perhaps are so good at living together, they don't need a government at all. But I think if you're a good coder, when you reboot the system, you install updates. You install updates so that the corruption doesn't happen again. Oh, with a reboot, preventing the corruption, methodical. I think, and this might be the anarchist, a little piece of an anarchist that's inside of me. I think that if you are a talented programmer, the next operating system that comes up with the update in it, it's smaller, it's lighter, it's more efficient. It has less rules and laws because it doesn't need them. The system works better as opposed to more laws, more rules. Government continues to just tack law on top of law, on top of law, on top of law, and not deal with the corruption because we don't reboot it. And after a while, what happens? Your blue screen. And what is a blue screen in that example? Violent revolution. Is that really what we want? Do we really want to continue to pile on law after law after law because we don't deal with the root cause of all the problems? That we keep taking the same governments that cause all the world's problems and we try to solve the world's problems with the same governments that caused all of them? I'm gonna look at some comments because I'm just throwing some thoughts out. All I'm doing, I'm vomiting, y'all. I'm vomiting. I was looking at the news and I don't want to go to the news this morning. I'm just looking at everyone's crying about the immigration, and it seems that we're too old. We've done this for too long. We should know enough now that people are migrating because they have to. They're not migrating because they want to. They're not leaving their farms and their houses because they want to take what you got. They're leaving their farms and their houses because our governments destabilized and destroyed their countries. We rolled out the war on drugs. We're bombing, we're invading. They're picking up their little kids, and because they don't want their little kids to be killed. They don't want their little kids to be raped. They don't want their kids starving. And so they do what families do. They migrate. The whole world's fighting this migration thing. And I don't think we should be fighting it. I think daycare had it right. Y'all remember daycare? Y'all remember daycare? Daycare never had borders, did it? No, no. Well, that's not totally true. That's not totally true. Because every now and then one of the little ignorant kids get dropped off. Did mama drop them off? Daddy drop them off. Mommy said, this is mine. You can't have none. You can't play with my blocks. You can't play with this. But we also had the community blocks, right? We had to pick up sticks and we had the board games, everything, all the kids shared. There were no borders. After a while, the stingy kid got it, fell in line. Okay, we're all sharing here. If you share with me, I share with you. Why? Because you got that game. After a while, I'm getting tired of my game, won't play with your game. You know, we all share. And so in daycare, there were no wars. There was no famine. There was no starvation. There was no scarcity that drives all of that. There were no psychopaths in daycare. All the kids were okay. No mental illness, very little anyway. Few that had it because the drugs that the pharmaceutical companies gave them. They recall that vaccine from the Philippines yet? Killing these kids. I think that things are a lot simpler than we think. I do. I think that we've already learned these lessons. Y'all know that show. What is that show called? Where Are They Now? Where y'all want to see where the wealthiest and the singers and the stars went. I think this is like a show of where are they now with the stingy kids. You know, the stingy kids that want to draw a border around. This is my lunch. You can't have none of my chips. You know, I'm not sharing with you. You're poor. Your family's poor. Ha 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 ha. I was born in a good family, got lots of money. You can't have none of mine. This is mine. And yet he was still on the board game. He grew up, went from 4-year-old ignorance to 40-year-old ignorance, and still doesn't realize he's on a board game being played by the billionaires who drew all the borders. I ask another question. I'm look at the comments. I'm gonna try to look at the comments as we go. Just questions. Yeah, hopefully y'all got answers. A lot of smart people in my friends list. If we have borders, if most of the borders in the world, if you're a border person, I'm not, you know, if you're you say a lot of, I got a lot of border friends, borders. And you believe in the board games, you believe in the borders, you believe in this world that the kings and the lords have drawn up. You believe that they're actually going to give you a fair shot. You believe that you might become one of them. They'll let you in the club. You believe that your kids might become one. They might let you in the club, them in the club. If they actually believe the borders that they drew, right? The borders that came out of wars and treaties, and we drew these borders because we want peace now. We've had our wars. We've slayed the demons, slayed the dragon, slayed the enemy. We want borders now. This will be peace for the people. If they actually believed in the borders that they drew, that this is peace, for peace, why do they have militaries? Why do they have invasion-sized militaries? Why? Obviously not for protection. Defensive military and invasion military are two different militaries, two different size forces, two different types of weaponry. Like Qatar right now buying their S-400 missiles from Russia. They're lying. Obviously, they don't believe in the borders. You believe in the borders because they need you to. You're subject to the borders because they need you to. The borders are for you. They're not for them. They're not for their kids either. They're for you. But if they believed in the borders that they've got you so convinced of, why do they have invasion-sized militaries? To invade other nations. So those people flock. And where do those people flock? They flock to your lands. And what happens when they flock to your lands? You turn them away. You know, if you don't know the root cause of a problem, you can't ever solve it. You gotta know the root cause of a problem. Your brain has gotta be able to connect the dots and understand this is where the problem came from. If we solve this, the problem goes away. You have to be as smart as the dumbest mechanic you know. Why? Because mechanics know what they're doing. They deal with the root cause of the problem. We don't have any immigration problems. We have destabilizing, invasion, wealth acquisition problems. We have billionaire problems. We don't have any migration problems. People are not coming to your land because they want your land, or they like your land, or they like you. They're coming to your land because they don't have a choice. And we can fix that. We don't have a whole lot of time to fix it. I don't think we do. Because you see the robot behind me? That's the next chess player. Right? The robots on the chessboard are they're more entertaining than the humans. The robots, they can steal more land for the billionaires, right? They don't die. They don't bleed. They don't fall on the battlefield. You know, your children, which are just meat for their wars, they're too weak. They're full of jelly, full of liquid. You can cut them up and they fall and they won't fight for the land. So the billionaires who don't even see us, right? And they're not evil. I'm not saying they're evil. I'm saying it's about acquisition of energy, consumption of resources. It's just resource smart to send out the robots to fight. You don't have to pay them. They fight longer. They can slice up these bag of jellies called humans. The billionaires don't have a choice. The billionaires have no choice. They must follow the rules of nature, which follow the rules of greed, which follows the rules of acquisition. They have no choice but to replace you. They have no choice but to replace you as a scientist, as an engineer, as a lawyer, whatever you do, as a dentist, just to be competitive with the other billionaires who are gonna do it anyway. Our problem isn't the billionaires. Our problem is us. Our problem is the system. We still agree with the borders. We still agree with the board game. We refuse to turn the board game over because maybe we're not smart enough. Enough of us aren't smart enough to connect the dots and realize we have no place in this basement. We won't be playing chess. The first billionaire that owns enough interest in enough of the countries to have the robot warriors, the robot workers, the other billionaires lost the game. Only we can change it. And it takes all of us to do it. Definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result. Got into a discussion the other day. They use our emotions against us. They use our emotions to get us to support the board game. The border game. That's what I'm gonna call it, the border game. They use it against us. There was a discussion about rape. There was a discussion about pedophilia and these guys. We keep finding these guys that are raping these babies. My position is always this. My position is listen to the professionals. Why do I like to listen to the professionals? Well, because they went to school for it. They did theory on it. They done research on it. They've worked with patients who had it. When you're dealing with psychopaths, I say you always listen to the professionals. You don't listen to the politicians. They work for the billionaires. They're just trying to make a career and make money out of the problem. They're not trying to solve the problem. They never address the root cause, which is why your politicians and governments never solve anything, which is why you got to reboot them every now and then. And you have to write new rules. You have to put new updates in so they'll actually solve a few problems every now and then. You know, so the position was in this discussion, we just need to kill the rapists. I get the emotion and I get the love. Right? This is a person who has children. However, isn't that what we've been doing with this operating system? Isn't that what we've been doing with our government? Using violence to solve violence, using law to fix everything, and it doesn't fix anything. We put them in prison, we hang them, we used to use lethal injection, we do all these things, firing squads. And yet the psychopaths are still here. They're still murdering, they're still raping, and they're still killing. And I submit to the court, if we continue to do the same thing, we're never going to get a different result. We need a new path, a new strategy. That's why I say listen to the professionals. Listen to the Peter Josephs. Listen to the neuroscientists and behavioral scientists, the ones who tell us they can get rid of rape. They can get rid of almost. right? I mean, there's still a few holdouts in those communities that say there's a genetic component we still don't understand that will be there no matter how the child is raised. But we can create the right environment so we don't have psychopaths. But dealing with the root cause of the problem, fixing it, finally fixing it, making extinct violence, making extinct murder. I asked a question. I like solutions. I asked a question this morning. I have to go back and look at the comments. What would happen to the world? I wanted y'all to think about it. I have to look at the comments later. But what would happen to the world if we had a cap on all salaries? We had a cap on all corporations' revenues. And we took our governments. I know some people are already flipping out like, oh, socialism, communism. No, I'm not. No, hang on. I try to listen to everybody and I try to see if we can't have a discussion that solves the problem for most people. Because that does sound like socialism and capitalism, or socialism and communism to a degree. But then we also have a government, not even government. That's not the right word. Maybe it's a guidance board that actually comes from that serf population that has the same income cap as everybody else. Because we don't need a whole bunch of laws. But I think we do need a stopgap solution. Like we might need a next step. You know, the anarchist in me says we don't need any of this, but a lot of people don't believe that. So maybe our next step that we can agree to is a cap on the things that cause all the problems. If greed is the root of all of our problems, if money is the root of the evil, if that's why this board game exists, if that's why the robots are coming, if that's why the automation is coming, if that's why the wars exist, if that's why the genocide and the famine is given to these religions like it's a good idea, that thou shalt kill, thou shalt murder, thou shalt steal land, and thou shalt covet thy neighbor's house, wife, and everything and take it. Why in the world is Netanyahu walking around the world right now and not being arrested? Can somebody explain that to me? Why is he not being arrested? If there were any peace, if there were any justice, if there were any religions in the world that actually believed anything of what their gods taught them, if anybody believed in natural law, any governments believed in what you believe, why is Netanyahu walking all around Europe, politicking, trying to get everybody to turn on Iran and the Iran deal? Why was he not arrested? Up to, what is it, 200 people is still dead from his requirement to shoot the serfs as they ran at the border. Let me go back and look at the comments. I just have a lot of questions. I think that if we actually installed government 2.0, right? These are just thoughts. They're just thoughts. But I think the fixes that we have to do come from the grassroots. I think they thoughts just go out there and they're tweaked and they're chewed up and they're spit out and they're perfected, they're made to work, and we implement them in our governments. Maybe we support the people who are pushing them forward. But if you take the money, like politicians, like they like to say it sounds good, you need to take the money out of big government. They love to say that, don't they? And they never do it. Never get close, never even try. I don't think they'd even try because they don't want to. They don't want to drain no swamp. Are you kidding me? The swamp is their bread and butter. The swamp is the board game. They're not draining the board game. Are you kidding me? They're on top. Why would they do that? That's just dumb as the day is long. That's why Obama didn't do it. And that's why Trump's not going to do it. Our thoughts got to come from the grassroots. If we know scarcity and greed are the basis of all of our problems, we need to reduce it. You may not agree with me that we need to get rid of money yet. I didn't agree with me. A year ago, I didn't agree with me. I'm just letting my mind, I'm trying to upgrade my mind. I try to reboot my mind every morning. I look at what my friends say from the different walks of life. I try to understand their plight and their problems, wherever they're from, what their families are dealing with, what their communities are dealing with, what's happening in their country. And I try to reboot myself every day. I try to die daily to yesterday's sins, to yesterday's sinful thoughts of greed and poverty, my own indoctrination that these things are okay. It's okay to have a world that lives 80% in poverty as long as I'm in the 20%. I don't give a damn. You know, I try to reboot myself every day based on what my friends teach me, based on what I'm learning, based on what I didn't know the previous day. I try to evolve. I think that's what we got to do. But we got to take these thoughts that we learn and we have to implement them. We have to figure out how to install them in the operating system as we constantly reboot. Maybe, I don't know, y'all say electing governments, that's a reboot. I don't know. I'm not sure I believe it. I kind of see the same thing in my country. I see the same thing with every government you put in. That's why I don't hate none of them. That's why people get mad when I say it, but I think Donald Trump is going to make America great again. I do. I totally do. I just don't think he's going to do it the way you think he's going to do it. I think he's going to do it because he's scaring the hell out of the right people. He's scaring the corruption out of the right people, and that's what's important. He's scaring people away from their own corruption. Not intentionally. I don't think Trump is on the board game. I think as president, you don't really have to be on the board game anymore. You're not in the ruling, you're not among the lords that are subject to the laws and the rules. You now can write rules for the billionaires. I don't think Obama's on this board game, right? That's why I don't trust anything that they say. I don't trust anything that comes out of any of their mouths. Not because they're them, but because they're not on the board game anymore. They're not subject to the laws that I am. They're not subject to the laws of the millionaires. They're not subject to the laws of the little billionaires that aren't in the club. They're not on the board game. Right? Like I was talking with Brother Al last night. We were talking about the bunker keys, right? Once you are off the board game, you got your bunker keys. You're going to be okay. When that asteroid comes, when the world falls apart, when the borders collapse, mass riots for food or whatever breaks out because this world model we have does not work for the majority, and it's not designed to work for the majority because they know the robots are coming. That's where they invest all their money in. They got their bunker keys. I can't understand. Somebody help me understand the psychology of serfs that are still supporting the border game. Somebody tell me, why does it make sense? Why does it, do these people secretly have bunker keys that we weren't told about? Did they get a little package in the mail? Here's your key. You can come down to the swimming pool and the spa, bathe with the Clintons and the Trump and Obama and all the rest of them in the same hot tub. Because they're all going to be there. And then Merkel, Putin, they all going to be in there. I think that maybe, I don't know. My mind goes crazy places when I think about it, but it's always them against us. It's always the people on the board game versus the people who aren't. A lot of people can't seem to figure that out. And I wonder why. I suspect when my mind goes funny places that they got bunkers in their own countries in case it's a world war. They try to pick which ways to be safe. Then they got bunkers in Antarctica in case it's a world level event. And they got to go somewhere else. They can go down to Antarctica. That's why I always wonder. I got a lot of friends that go, why can't we go to Antarctica? I always like to ask that question. There's everywhere you can go on this planet, but you cannot go to Antarctica. And if you go, you have to get special agreements by multiple governments just to land on the coast. And when you get there, you have to have a walking plan. You can't just go anywhere. They need to know where you're going, why you're going, when you're coming back, how long you're staying. What the hell is in Antarctica that we can't go there? Is it there where their massive bunkers are? Is it the ice wall, the flat earther? It could be the flat earther ice wall, y'all. Could be the entrance to hollow earth. I don't know. But I know that they're not on the board game. They know things we don't know. Could be the aliens. Could be the entrance to inner earth. I don't know. Could be an ancient civilization they found, an ancient technology that gives them a one-up to the people who aren't on the board. If we can't start to see each other from a perspective of who's on the board and who's not on the board, who's within the laws and who's outside of the laws, we lose this game. We lose the game. Everybody. 80%, 90%, however many of the people who are actually trapped in the border game. Why do we still play the border game? Let me go back and look at the comments. I'm kind of ranting a little bit. But everybody's talking immigration. Seems like that's an issue in every country. Immigration, immigration, immigration. Nobody's asking, well, why is immigration a problem? Let's do some root cause analysis. Let's be dumb. Like the dumbest mechanic, the dirty mechanics, the ones that y'all just laugh at all. He's just a dirty mechanic. I'm nice. I got a nice job. I smell good. I'm a business owner. Got my suit and my tie. Got my pantsuit. I'm smarter than those dummies who do root cause analysis to solve problems with my car. I go into my corporate office and I don't solve a damn thing. I just put band-aids on all the corruption, like government always does, because there's a lot more money in putting a band-aid than fixing the problem. You start fixing the problems, the operating system gets smaller and smaller and smaller. When you start solving corporations' problems, they get smaller, more efficient, more productive. You start actually solving problems in your government, it gets smaller. There's less need for them. They don't need to write more laws. They don't need to hire more government. Which is why corporations get bigger and bigger and bigger, because we don't want to solve the problem. Y'all remember the year 2000? The year 2000 problem? Hell no, we don't want to solve that problem. We're programmers. Oh no, I got to make some money. Money, money, money. Had to make some money. To the year 200,000, right? We don't solve problems. I think as a species, we have to start solving problems again. I think we got to start looking at the root cause of problems or nothing gets solved. I think that we have to stop agreeing with the leaders putting band-aids on every damn thing. We need to stop getting on sides with Israel and Palestine and just actually look at the root cause of the problem. To me, I don't know, maybe I'm crazy. To me, it's just so much simpler than it. When I listen to the people in Israel who I think have common sense and they're intellectuals, and they say, you know what, we got our state, they got their state. They stay over there, we stay over here, everybody's good. In fact, we can live in peace because I don't have any issue with them. The government doesn't go for that. The government always writes laws for apartheid, separate people, because if they can divide them up on their little board game, they can make a lot of money. And this is where the governments of both states, Palestine and Israel, are in league. They're in league because they're not on the board game. They're in league in getting their people to fight each other so they stay in power. I think the problems are a lot simpler than we think. I think we flip these board games over. Let me look at the comments. I know I said it a few times. I'm gonna look at them now. Borders are the constructs of the winners of wars, the spoils being divided amongst the warmongers. Yes, Clemency, I totally agree. The borders are drawn by those who win the wars. The most violent, the ones with the most guns, the ones who are just the most murderous, the ones who send in the dragoons, who are okay with burning and raping and destroying villages and children. And that's who orchestrated and architected our world. They're the ones who built the model, the most violent, the ones who could care less about human beings, the ones who could just go through and destroy Native American village after Native American village and not give a damn about the blood that's spilled. And they're the ones who drew the borders, the colonizers. And this is the model we want to keep. The laws and the structure and the government they developed. These are the people that are going to orchestrate where our world goes, the world that our children will live in. They're keeping us too busy to see the trees through the forest. Yes, Mary, they keep us busy. Why? Because we go to work. And this is why I don't really blame people for their ignorance. I don't. If you're countries like mine, they keep people busy. They keep them working. A 40-hour week became a 50-hour week. 50-hour week became a 60-hour week. 60-hour week became two parents working. Two parents working became kids working. Kids working, two parents working became parents working two jobs and a side job, side business. They keep people busy. They don't have time to actually study the things that you do. And now I'm not talking to the lost people. I'm talking to my friends. I'm not talking to new people. I'm talking to people who actually realize the screw that we're on a board game. If we treat these people like they're dumb, if we treat them like they're fools and they're ignorant, they'll never wake up. We push them away. We can't push these people away. These are busy people. They don't have time to look up what Operation Gladio is. They don't have time to look up that Pearl Harbor was a lie. They don't have time to look up that 9/11 was a big joke on us. And they're lost in the Hollywood and the media. We have to treat these people with respect. We have to treat them like they're intellectuals. I'm guilty as everybody else. Sometimes my words slip. I call them dummies. I do. I know. I don't cuss them out. Not yet. But we got to treat these people with respect because we need them. We need them. They're not deplorables. You look at the kid in the inner city, got the big pants on. What got the big pants? You know the big pants that hang down and you see the drawers and stuff. Gotta stop being racist against them. We need them. We need their parents. Flipping this world, rebooting our operating system, rebooting our governments, it's gonna take everybody. You people looking at the rednecks, they're deplorables. They drive around with gun racks, got the ZZ Top beards. They don't mean me. They're dumb on the farm. You don't raise anybody dumb on the farm. I don't know if you've ever done any gardening or farming in your life. People aren't dumb. People are actually very intelligent. In fact, to be honest with you, if in living in both worlds, what do I see? I see a lot more intelligence in the inner cities. I mean, in the cities, not inner city, in the cities. And I see a lot more common damn sense and root cause analysis in the country. Your rednecks, your ZZ Top. Imagine if you put the two together. Like one, people who fled the farm for the countries. I mean, for the cities. They gave up common sense and they bought into indoctrination and they got that intelligence. They learned how to become great button pushers and how to put in spreadsheets and do all of that. Work the damn internet and all these damn tools. The people who stayed on the farm, they stayed in touch with what was handed down to them in common sense, how to fix a problem. The tractor broke, damn it, we know how to fix it. Root cause, that mechanic, the dumb mechanic stuff. How to rotate crops, how to do things and make sure that things work from a root cause, how to take care of the cattle without a whole bunch of drugs and pharmaceuticals. Like there's two different schools of knowledge. But imagine if you put those two together. Imagine if you put your racism away for the ZZ Top, our redneck brothers. Imagine if you did. Imagine if you put your little racism away for people who are incarcerated, got neck tattoos. We need them too. Imagine. I just think that we're on this board game and we got to flip it. Sister Teresa, Sister Teresa, I like that. Sister Teresa. She said, decolonize. We have to decolonize. We have to decolonize, not just from a border perspective, from a government perspective, from a psychology perspective, right? The mentality. We all have the mentality of colonizers because it was handed down to us. And we all embrace it. We all adopt different aspects of it because they deleted all of our cultures. Well, not everybody, most of us. The vast majority of us, we believe in this colonizing mindset of taking what other people have, this greed that this is my land because I was born here. The border should exist. Migration is something that existed for 200,000. It didn't exist for 200,000 years. It existed for 1 billion years. Like, think about this. Go back to the days of the dinosaurs. Were the dinosaurs smart enough to migrate? They had pea brains, the size of, oh, I got to see. Let me show y'all a seed. Let me show you a seed. I got a plan to do. Let me show you this. This is off the hook. This is, what kind of seed is this? They had the pea brains. See how big that's? That's a big old seed. Kind of small for a brain. What is this? This is an entada ready. It's an Indian seed. Wild harvest. I got to plant these guys today. The reptiles, they were reptiles, they were birds. The birds, the dinosaurs, they had brains this big versus my brain this big. Look at the difference. But yet they were smart enough to know to migrate. When the asteroid came, when there was no food scarcity, when a bigger dinosaur came to the land, they knew to get the hell out of there. They were smart enough to migrate. They knew what migration was. It's because you can't have borders on Earth. Because it's how life has always worked from the very beginning. And it's not even just a religious thing of giving a person the shirt off your back that borders shouldn't exist, but it's a natural law thing. This is how it's always worked. Always. Sister Sandra loves having conversations with her incarcerated son. So do I. So do I. A lot of my wisdom came from my friends who ended up incarcerated, who had nothing but time to sit around and think, nothing but time to sit around and read, nothing but time to sit around and think about, how did I get knocked off the board? How did the board game get me? They had time to think like the redneck in the country. Right? Farming done for the day, the gardening is done. You sit down, you have a cup of tea, and you think on your porch. You meet with your friends, you talk. They had time to think. The people in the cities don't. They're working multiple jobs, and when the job is done, they're miserable because they hate the job, so they got to go to happy hour, get the drink, and get drunk. Do some drugs to make the life work. They don't have time to think about this. The people who are incarcerated got time to think, which is part of why I think that's why they take their right to vote when they get out. Not because they're violent people. Most of them never hurt a fly. Most of them are victimless crimes. Peaceful people. There are more peaceful people incarcerated than are walking on the street today. Tends to be the peaceful one that gets caught, the one that doesn't want to murder the police when they come for him. Think about that. All right. That's a lot of breeding, no-go shortcuts, short curves. Get on, you got me, brother. I'm not sure what we're saying there. Teresa again. Stop killing immediately. Stop wars, value and honor life. Yes, Teresa, Sister Teresa, if we actually, our government shouldn't have militaries. There is no, somebody give me a good debate for why a government should have a military. Somebody explain that to me. I'm waiting. I asked a week ago. What is an argument based on some empirical evidence that makes it common sense for a government to have a military? If we got all these borders, why? Now, okay, not in the countries that have disputed border disputes like India and a few others, but the rest, everybody else, why do they have militaries? Because the plan is to invade somebody. The plan is to murder somebody. Teresa said, we have to get rid of the violence. Hannah says money is fake anyway. Yes, it is. Sister Hannah Coben. Money is fake. Money doesn't exist. Everything is about the board game behind me. Everything is about human labor. It always has been. Money is not staying no matter how much you want it to. It's going away. We win if we make it go away on our terms. If money goes away on the billionaires' terms, when they have the robots to play the board game and to move the pieces, what happens to us? If we let this play out, right? If we keep fighting with each other, we let it play out the way they want. It's not going to go the way we want. Problem is, it ain't going to be us. It's going to be our kids. It's going to be our grandkids. They're the ones who have to live with our lack of wisdom. They're the ones who have to live with our complicity with violence. That's why I think the aliens came, y'all. Always goes back to the aliens with me. That's why I think the aliens came. I think they came to say, dummy. Where's my picture at? No, they ain't gonna say dummy, where's my picture at? I'm saying that to myself. I talk to myself all the time. I don't know, I do it. I can pull up to a stoplight. I have these conversations with myself. People are like, what the hell? The hell is he talking to himself? I do it all the time. Where's my picture at? I want to see my picture. I think when the aliens showed up, they gave us these, they said what to do. Ancient aliens. I believe in that. I think it makes sense. I'm not sure what belief means, though. I think it's plausible. I think they showed up to teach this colony that you're getting played. You're going to get played. I think they made the rules very simple. Thou shalt not kill, shall not murder, shall not steal, shall not. And if you have a government that's doing the not positive with the not, but doing it, not in it, don't support them. Why in the world, if the majority of the people in the country, in the world, are religious people, supposed to have love, supposed to care for kids more for themselves, supposed to. Why are we still supporting the murderous governments that aren't doing what the ancient alien said? How does that make any sense? Hold on, let me show. I gotta show you a picture another way. So you can see when we had to talk about the ancient aliens. You didn't see that one. I think they have I think that it has a name now. I think they call it alien religion theory or something like that. When the aliens showed up and people worshiped them. Here's my picture. This is what I want to show you. So I can show this to you. Right here. Right here. I think when they showed up, they told you the things they told that we needed to know. It was because they knew a day was coming when we'd be put on a board game. They knew that when they set up these colonies on all these planets that somebody bubbles to the top. There's always an elite that bubbles to the top. And they said, okay, every time this happens, we put these species on these planets with definitive resources. They always fight each other. They look different. For them, it's not skin. Maybe their planet doesn't turn the way ours does. So solar energy doesn't make them different colors. But one got 3 horns, the other got 2. 3 horns gonna fight the 2 horners. Let's get them. Get on the board game. Got the billionaire 3 horners and 2 horners that aren't on the board game, forcing everybody else to play the game. To me, it actually makes sense. You don't have to believe that. I'm fine with that. I just think that we have some very simple, basic truths for how to exist on this planet together. And we have to stop avoiding those truths. Brother Gallon says your bunker key guarantees you nothing. I agree with that. I agree with that, Gallon. I do believe that they're going to go to those bunkers and they're going to die anyway. I don't think that these planets actually are designed for you to hide under a bunker. You're going to run out of food. The environment's going to take millions of years to reboot. I believe that sterilization period after these world wars and whatever happens, nothing will be here for a long time. Because the planet has to sterilize. It's how the universe works. If your species is too dumb to figure out that you got to work together as a collective, that you're actually one, that you're all a part of this energy, spiritual, whatever thing it is, that you shouldn't exist in the universe. And I think the planet goes through periods of millions of years of wiping out, starting over, rebooting. Oh, back to rebooting. Governments are operating systems. Planets are operating systems. When you have a little too much corruption, you got too much power in too many small places, it has to be rebooted. Sandra said, perhaps some of the leaders are waiting for the serfs to ride up. They can't come out and say it. That would be their doom. So the serfs have, uh-oh. I lost the rest of the comment. I'm sorry, sister. I don't think I can go back. I have to go back and look at it. Move down in the comments. I'm sorry. I get too far back in the comments and I can't see what everybody's saying. Secrets of Antarctica. Thank you, Kathy. You're always posting something good. I have to look at it. There are secrets in Antarctica we know nothing about. These people are always lying to us. You know, what is the greatest thing about the Freedom of Information Act? It's because not of any of the documents that were released, but because of the fact it told us that our government is always lying to us. I think the most powerful thing about the Freedom of Information Act is that it told us that it demonstrated to us that we're always on a board game, that we're all just pieces on the board game, and we have no more value to them than they divide us up, because some of us have 3 horns and the other has 2. And we're dumb enough to actually fight each other over that. One evolved in a certain place and another evolved a few thousand years in another place and has a slightly different culture. The greatest thing the Freedom of Information Act should show everybody is they are all on the same team and they all know the same level of information, which is information they have no interest on sharing with us. Deborah said, hell, there's built-in obsolescence that the corporations agree to since the light bulb was first marketed. Yes, Deborah, thank you. Planned obsolescence. I don't know who gave me that concept. Y'all rebooted me on that concept. Whoever gave it to me. I started looking into that. I was like, man, planned obsolescence, like this is real. Across the board, everything from software to tires to cars to houses. Everything is planned to be destroyed. Everything is planned to be made obsolete. There's always technology much further advanced than what they have. The technology that they actually come out with that would prevent them from selling more, they never release it. The pharmaceutical companies, when they make a cure, when they get a little too close to the cure, they stop. Because they don't want to cure your cardiovascular disease. They don't want to cure your cancer. They don't want to cure your HIV. They don't want to cure any of it. They want you to stay sick and keep taking the drugs because money has to go. The root cause of all these problems, they're not because pharmaceutical companies are corrupt. It's not because the auto industry is corrupt. It's not because the governments are corrupt. It's because money exists, and it's about consumption of energy, utilizing as few resources as possible. It is a natural rule of nature for this world to exist the way it is as long as money exists. You will never get rid of those things. You can shake your government up. You can modify it. You can put anybody else in there you want. You can change things. Get some Bernie in there. Get some Oprah in there. Get some Obama in there. Get some Trump in there. Get some Jesse Ventura in there. And they're all going to do the same thing as long as money exists. The bottom line is the rules of nature. I need to put out as little effort as possible and collect as much energy as possible. Everything on the planet does it, from fungi to microbiology, black goo. Everything does it. All the human beings do it. All the systems do it. The operating systems do it. Everything is planned around this idea of consuming resources. And that's what planned obsolescence is. It's consuming as much as possible, doing as little as possible. That's what not giving you a cure for the thing that's killing you does. It allows them to consume as much possible from you for doing as little as possible. It builds in natural corruption. Corruption is a inevitable requirement for a society that makes survival based on money. You've taken away energy in apples and oranges and grapefruits and farms, the power in land because the people don't own the land. And you put all of that energy thing in money. And now money is energy. So you do anything you do to consume as much of it as possible for doing as little as possible. And this is what allows people of recent slavery to go like this and not give a damn about slavery because it's not them. It's not their kids. It's not their neighborhood. People of recent massive impoverished upbringing Buck Daddy can go like this and screw the hell out of everybody who comes from it and not care. Not because they're bad. Not because they're bad, but because they're mentally ill on a planet that's built on a model of violence, borders, on a board game where it utilizes learned survival reactions. I won't say mental illness. That's a little tough because it's not really an illness. Mental illness doesn't actually exist. These are survival necessities, right? They're survival necessities, consumption of energy, natural law. Some of us are better at it than others. Some will go a little further than others, and it has to do with the amount of scarcity that you grew up in. We know all of these things, yet we don't solve them. We know better, yet we go fight with the people with three horns. We know we're being played by natural law. We know that you have nothing to do with the religion that you say that you hold so dear to your heart, that you committed your life to. What if we actually started to act like who we say we are? What if? What if? We need to have open discussion with all walks of life to make a real conversation. Yes, Brother Gown. Amen. Amen, brother. And I know you're not religious, but amen. Because you said something that hits to the heart of every religion. It is about discussion. It's not about violence. Violence doesn't exist in the mind of an intellectual. Violence only exists in the mind of a fool, an ignorant person, a lovingly ignorant person, a lovingly ignorant person that doesn't know history, that doesn't realize violence begets more violence. Hate brings more hate. You need to have more dialogue, less decisions on force. That's why I agree with pretty much every law that's ever existed. I don't agree with force. I don't have a religion that allows me to agree with force. Oh. I don't have a religion that allows me to agree with the Crusades. I have a religion that tells me that colonization is the devil's work and sinful in every possible way, and that I will be put in the deepest, darkest place in hell if I actually agree with colonizers and I support them. I have a religion that tells me, it's probably more spiritual than religious at this point, because religion, it seems like, I don't know, I think that these ancient alien things came and they told us what to do, and man said, let's make a religion. And aliens said, we didn't say that. No, dummy, we didn't say that. We didn't say make a religion. We said just do this and don't do that. That's all we said. You took it too far. The kings took it and they made some nonsense out of it. Keep the rules simple. I consistently put myself in the heat at the VFW in the neck, Vermont, many times being a sole voice on the side of a topic. Yes, Gown, because you are a human being, Gown. You have more love in your heart probably than most Christians I know. Maybe all of them. You're more Christ-like than most of them I know, because you're actually doing the things that Christ taught that didn't really come from Christ. All truth came before the religions. Like the truth is what's true. Truth existed before these planets even existed, and any microbiology or genetic engineering aliens put it all together. What's true is what's true. And these things, I know somebody's already flipping out like, is he really saying Christianity came from aliens? No. You said that, not me. Your God said that, not me. Christ is the one who said he wasn't terrestrial. And if he's not terrestrial, he can only be one other thing. God said he wasn't terrestrial either. If God said it wasn't terrestrial, it can only be one other thing. I like to keep things simple. You got to stop fighting with each other. That's the only way you have those dialogues. Sister Teresa says she ain't my sister. Yes, you are, girl. Yes, you are. I don't care what you. Everybody is my family. Whether you like me or not. I don't care if you like me. I don't care if you agree with me. In fact, to be honest with you, I don't want you to agree with me. If you agree with me, then we're at the same intellectual level and we can't really get smarter. I like people who disagree. I mean, I like people who agree, don't get me wrong. I don't do arguments and discussions. I like dialogue. But I have these thoughts and I have questions, and I know that I can't answer them alone. I know that I can't alone, nothing alone is worth anything. There is no bad thought. There is no bad thought. Doesn't matter who you are, how far you are on the right, left. I see Brother Johnny. I see you. I see you got a new profile name. I see you. Man, causing trouble. Stop trolling so much, brother. You know, but I appreciate all his thoughts. Brother Johnny, he does not do Christianity. He does not do Christianity at all. But I still want to hear his thoughts, right? Because he's a human being. He's an intellectual. Seldom do we agree when it comes to the religion talk, or the spirituality talk. But I still want to hear his thoughts. Why? Because he's human. His name in the room is Vegan. I saw him acting up a little earlier. I couldn't see the comment and scroll too fast. I'm trying to go down in the comments, but we got to hear from everybody. Right? The only bad thoughts are the ones that aren't shared, right? How do we build a world if we don't hear from everybody? How do we build a world if the right is so ignorant that their people don't want to hear from the left? That's the board game. That's the strategy. It's the rules of keeping the board game going by getting you not to talk to people. You have to talk to people, and you have to speak up if you're quiet. There is no such thing as a bad thought. The only bad thought is people who are afraid to share. The only bad thought is people who aren't in the conversation at all, right? I know. I can't see. I see what some of y'all said. I know Brother Johnny's getting on the gender thing. He gets on the religion and gender thing. Listen. There's a reason why everybody becomes who they do. Everybody's gone through something. Everybody has experiences. Everybody. And the only way you hear them, heal them, is to hear them. Sister Jeannie's talking about open source knowledge. Yes, we got to open source everything. There can't be any more secrets. Secrets is the board game. Secrets is the board game. Because you don't know what move somebody else is going to make next. You don't know how much they know. You don't know where they're going to put the rook and the pawn and the king and move it around. Secrets are what allow the board game to continue. And I say it's time we flip the board game over. I say it's time we flip it peacefully. We know we can flip it peacefully, but it takes everybody. It takes us to flee from our ignorance. Surely evidence of the making sense with aliens. Thank you, Carrie. I mean, that's kind of what I think. I don't know. I just look back, and to me, it kind of makes sense to me. Talking to yourself is a sign of intelligence. Thank you, Aja. I don't think it means that I'm intelligent, but I talk to myself a lot. I have a lot of questions. Y'all not with me in my car. Y'all should come with me in my car sometimes. I'm in my car, and I have some thoughts. I'm like, oh man, what gonna do about this? Best thing I can do at the stoplight is I make a post. Somebody answer this for me. I gotta say something. I don't know if it's right, but y'all not in my car with me. So I said, I have my little conversations, answer myself. Aren't we just a sim anyhow, Brother Gown? It's plausible. Actually makes sense. It makes sense that we are in one big simulator on some alien's computer. It's possible. Big Bang was a laptop button push. I call him God, but you can call him whatever you want. Big Bang, but he pushed the laptop, powered on, and an explosion happened. As registers started to shift, electronics started to go through the board, hitting different computer chips, making things happen. I think religion is science to me. I think science is religion. I think that we're all, those of us who are true, I think we're just seeking the truth. And none of us know the truth. Aliens are not very empathetic, or they would have sent an asteroid already, Mary. You know, Mary, I think, and I don't want it to turn into an alien discussion, but I think that aliens are us. I think we are the aliens. I don't think there are any aliens. I think that you just have a whole bunch of planets with a whole bunch of life, and for some reason we can't get off of these planets, or not that often, or we're isolated from the rest of them for some reason. You know, we're pretty far out in the Milky Way galaxy. Could be that. But I think that if I were some ancient race of aliens, I would give time to see if you have the genetics to make it. I would see that if your brains are capable of being sentient. I want to be able to fly around in my spaceship knowing that you're not going to shoot me from my back. I need to see if you can evolve out of your violence. And if you don't evolve out of your violence, you know what I would do, Mary? I'd pluck an asteroid at your planet, make sure it lands in the ocean, and reboot the system. Which is what I think what God was trying to tell us, which is what I think what Gilgamesh was saying, which is what I think what a lot of the religions were saying. You know, I think that's why you have all that glass out there in India and in the stories in the Mahabharata. I think that that's what happens, is that we have so much time to grow the hell up. And if we don't grow up, the aliens like, we got to start over. Reboot the system. It's got too much corruption. We need to start over. They didn't fix their government. They didn't fix their world. They're still fighting. They're violent. That we just mixed the DNA with the wrong monkeys, the wrong species. So yeah, and Carrie mentioned Jesse Ventura. I like Jesse Ventura, but I think it's like lambs to the slaughter. I think whatever nice guy or nice gal we put in a corrupt, evil system, that the corruption's going to rule. I don't think you can send a sheep in among wolves and that sheep doesn't get eviscerated and ripped apart. And that's assuming we can even get a sheep in there. Going on about some more colonizers. Let me keep going down. See if I missed any comments from somebody. Yep, that's why the new iPhones every month. Yeah, Gaia. Yeah, Gaia, and that's what it's about. It's the planned obsolescence. That's why they keep rolling out the iPhones. They have slaves mining the minerals and cheap labor putting them together. And as long as they can get people Get people who aren't aware of the damage that small electronics do to the world, disaster will continue to occur. Brenda says she's optimistic about the aliens. I am too. I'm optimistic not about the aliens, Brenda, but I'm optimistic about how the universe works. I think the universal binary code, what just drives everything, is love. I think that's the basic. I think that's the bare bones basic, and I think that in the long run, everything ends up going the way it's supposed to. Let me see. Give me my last couple of comments, and then I'm gonna go. Money is energy and has frequency spectrum. We are currently on the death end of the frequency. Allow yourself to get curious about what the life end of the money spectrum is. Yes, Sharon, you're a forward thinker. You're thinking, girl, you got your thinking cap on. I love it. People have to think about the end game, Sharon. They're not thinking about the end game. They're not thinking this all the way out. I think when people realize we are on the board game and the rules are written against us and the rules are written to keep us playing, the rules are written to make us think we have a chance. So when the game comes to an end, we'll restart the game and think we have a chance. And that comes to an end, we'll restart the game and think we have a chance. And really what we should be doing is ending the game, updating the procedure, and writing new rules. Oh, vegan stop. Definitely spirit. All right, hold on. Let me go back. Vegan talking about last night. I saw you in there acting up. Oh, I can't. I can't go there with you, brother. I can't. I can't. Definitely spiritual, not religious. Yes, Kathy. And I think the more that you pay attention to religion and the origins and how the world works, you become more and more spiritual. And I think that's what the alien God things really wanted. Muhammad, Buddha, all of them. They just wanted to give us spirituality, but man made religion out of it. Man wrote a bunch of rules and dogma to control people. Anything that's good always gets co-opted. Religions are control systems. Yes, they are. Religions are complete control systems. They utilize these things to control people. It doesn't make religions inherently bad. It just makes them inventions of man that came out of original spirituality rules. Everything that's good always becomes co-opted. I believe in empathy. I believe if the empathy center of your brain is turned off, you are mentally ill. I hear you, Shiva. I hear you, and it makes sense. When I say that mental illness doesn't exist, what I'm saying is that the brain does what it's supposed to do. According to the studies that I look at, the neuroscientists I follow, the brain always makes modifications based on its environment. We build environments for empathy to be shut off. Kids can't have empathy if they're grown up in scarce times. Kids who grow up in impoverished white communities can't have empathy. Kids growing up in impoverished Black and Hispanic communities, they can't have empathy. Kids in Gaza can't have a lot of empathy. Mother Nature takes care of that to make sure that they don't, because they won't survive if they do. It's a survival skill. So I don't look at it as a mental illness. I see it how science sees it, as just a survival mechanism, which is why the alien things told us, the God things told us not to do the things that we're embracing and doing today, so we wouldn't make a lot of people into those warrior genes that get flipped on. If you're not familiar with warrior genetics, look up the warrior gene. Look up Brother James Fallon and look at some of his studies. We make people violent. Violence is not human nature. The aliens wouldn't have picked the monkeys if violence was our nature. The aliens came down, saw bonobos. And that's why he chose that as opposed to reptiles. Or maybe he chose reptiles the first time. I don't know. Giant people mutated as small people to be obedient slaves. Verna, I think anything's possible. When the colonizers came across this planet, they deleted everybody's history. So we really don't know what came before us. And so that's why we're locked into the rules of this game. And we don't know we're on a game board because they deleted everything before that. So we think this is the best thing and the only thing that's going. Facebook accidentally gets it right sometimes, Mary said. I think Facebook gets it right a lot because Facebook is us. Facebook is us. The government is us. The FBI, security, MI6, KGB, all of them, they're just us. That's why I think we have a chance at this. And that's the whole board game is made up of us. It's supported by us. It's built on a table we built by pieces we made. There's human throughout all aspects of government. And I think that's why they're so desperate about us not getting off of the board game. Mary said, send the asteroid already. Well, you know, I prefer the asteroid not come yet, but if it comes, it comes. Unfortunately, man does seem to need a disaster to grow up sometimes. The meek will inherit the earth. I believe that's true, Gaia, and I think that's why some of the oldest cultures we have are what, the Tibetan cultures that lived in the mountains at times of great disaster and floods and different things. The documents that are stored are always put in caves high up, sealed under the Sphinx, the right paw. You know, they always hide these things because they know disaster always comes. Yeah, some of you guys are talking about, you know, the pedophile stuff, what they found. I don't know a whole lot about that down around Texas. And we know these things are real. We talked about yesterday with Brother Al. These things are real and they happen. Appreciate you guys sharing. Appreciate you guys getting the information out. That's what's important. We all have to start to tune in with our thoughts. We all got to engage. Engage, people. Engage. Put your thought out there. It does. I like to see comments from everybody. I don't want to see comments from the usual suspects who are figuring this stuff out. You have an experience that we need to hear about. I saw some child trafficking activity in my area, so frightening. It is, Mary, which is why we need to stop it. We need to bring it to an end, and we can bring it to an end. We're just choosing not to. We're choosing to ignore the great wisdoms that these ancient people, humans from the future, maybe they're not aliens, maybe they're humans from the future that came back and told us these things. I don't know what they are. All we know is they had immense power to a point where people still follow. They made the biggest following on the planet that formed these religions. I think that, who was it? Was it Norma yesterday? She made a powerful statement I was sharing yesterday with a lot of people. She said, follow Christ, not Christianity. Follow Muhammad, not the Quran, right? But what does that mean to me? And I think it was a powerful statement because the books have been modified. The books are always changed by men and the books can be interpreted different ways. But if you follow the peaceful lifestyles of those who created those things, the world wouldn't look this way. Like George Carlin always said, Christianity is a great religion. When are you ever going to start to practice it? So that's kind of what I'm asking you today. Practice your faith. And whatever it is, whether it's natural law or it's love. I got to get going. The last statement I'll leave up to Sister Carrie, who just said, if you remove the militaries, would some of the bizarre events not exist? Carrie, I think if you remove the militaries, people actually have to think. I think if you remove the militaries, government can't solve anything with violence because you never really solve anything with violence. I think they use the militaries against us. I think they use force. I think if force is an option, they'll always, when there's a stalemate, they won't think deeper. They'll write a law, use force, send men with guns to your neighborhood and enforce it. I think if you take the militaries, then the nations have to talk. And if they can't solve the problems, then they got to mind their own damn business. I think if you take the militaries away, people start talking. It's like our society. Why don't you go kill your neighbor when they cut your grass? Why don't you kill your neighbor when the tree falls on the house? Why don't they come and do that to you? It's because they wouldn't do it. Because they can't do it. Violence isn't an option for us. All right. You guys have an awesome day. Love you.